I had a client that recently said something kind of shocking, so I thought it was worth talking about it with you today. And if you feel like you are carrying all of the heavy stuff in step family life alone, this episode is going to be for you. I'm Cameron. I spent years building my career and creating a life I loved. And when my Prince Charming finally showed up, he had 4 kids in tow. Fast forward through lots of mistakes made and lessons learned, step family life was much more complicated than I realized. If you're looking for help with blended family life, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Stepmom Diaries, where we keep it real as we dish about all the things. This is your weekly dose of blended family inspiration and encouragement. You're not the wicked stepmother, so let me help you find your fairy tale ending. Come on, let's do this. Welcome, and happy fall. Here we are, almost, to Halloween and staring down the holiday season, which I just cannot believe. I don't know how it is where you are, but where we are in Maine, it is insane. These fall leaves are gorgeous. And I should preface it with fall is my absolute favorite time of year. It's, football season, although my South Carolina Gamecocks have not exactly covered themselves in glory this season, but it's football season, it's fall leaves, it's the weather where you can wear long sleeves in the morning and short sleeves in the afternoon and start a fire pit at night. And I just love it. And something about fall feels a little bit like fresh starts. And, there's nothing wrong. You don't have to wait till New Year's to have a fresh start, right? So I don't know. I love this time of year. So I would love to hear how you're spending your fall. But I did want to talk to you today about something that I have seen buzzing around in a lot of different places. I've seen it in my Facebook group. I've seen it on Instagram, in my membership, in my DMs, and, at the Stepmom Summit back in September. It has also come up with my clients. And so I want to just give you a little anecdote that sort of personifies what it is that I hear from women that I work with. One of the women at the Stepmom Summit said something that really stuck with me, and not necessarily because it was like the most shocking thing I've heard, but because it was so familiar and I've heard it from so many different people. She was really upset because she had had some interactions with her stepkids, and she was really looking for backup from her husband and wasn't getting it. And she just kept saying, "Oh, my husband is an idiot." Well, that's not necessarily a sentiment that, I haven't already heard from many of my friends, right? Like, you get fed up with your spouse and you say that, right? But as I've heard this from a number of stepmoms, they're expressing this frustration, not necessarily that they actually think that their spouse is an idiot, right? Well, what's behind that? It is a mountain of built up resentment, hurt, and silence. And what I'm hearing from them is this feeling that their partner's not backing them up, right? And so if you are a stepmom and have ever felt like you're carrying all the things and your partner either seems unaware of what's going on or isn't really willing to step in and help you out or back you up, this episode is for you. This is this whole dynamic where, stepmoms are dealing with like disrespect from the kids, chaos in the house, a high conflict ex that's maybe saying stuff about them that's coming back through the kids, whatever that looks like. But there's just a lot of stuff that is on stepmom's shoulders here. And their partner is just kind of checked out, or worse, he completely dismisses their concerns. I've been seeing a lot of posts from women, and I've been talking to some of my clients, and the general question I get is, am I crazy for feeling this way? Like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And I have to tell you, every other stepmom that hears this is like, oh my God, I feel the same way. It's like this epidemic of stepmoms who are feeling like they're doing it all alone. So I'm going to give you my take on this, right? This is not just a communication problem between stepmom and spouse, although there's probably that too. But this is maybe a little deeper. It is this feeling of being invisible in your own home, right? And this comes a little bit from the dynamic of stepfamily life. Patricia Pappernow has a wonderful way of characterizing it as being that step-parents are stuck outsiders and their spouses are stuck insiders, right? And so what does that mean? That means that, as a stepmom, you're joining a family unit that was already in existence. So you're always, you may get along with everyone great. You're still kind of an outsider, right? And your partner is stuck on the inside. And sometimes it's hard to see where you're each coming from. It's hard to see the other person's point of view. But this is more than just feeling invisible in your own home. It is about that partnership or the lack of it when you're not seeing each other's point of view, right? So if we don't address that, then what does that do? It builds. It builds into this kind of resentment that poisons everything, where it doesn't matter what your spouse does. You're like, oh, he's an idiot, right? So today I want to unpack a little bit about what's really happening when you feel like your partner doesn't have your back, why it matters more than you might think it does, and what you can actually do about it before it's too late, right? So let's start with this phrase. When you say, my partner doesn't have my back, what does that actually mean? Because that is not surface stuff, right? You're not just talking about your partner not backing you up when the kids are being disrespectful, although that can definitely be part of it. What you're really saying is, I feel alone. What you're saying is, I'm drowning here, and you, the one person who's supposed to be my life raft, is sitting on the shore and watching me flail around. Do you feel that? I know so many stepmoms that do. What it is it's your partner not seeing the emotional toll that this is all taking on you. Or maybe they see it, but they're minimizing it. And you know what I'm talking about. Like, you try to explain how hard something is, and they say something like, oh, they're just kids, or you're being too sensitive, or you're being too tough, or, my personal favorite, that's just how they are, right? No. Here's the thing. When your partner doesn't have your back, what you're really experiencing is a feeling of being emotionally abandoned. And I know that sounds really heavy, but stay with me here. You're in a house full of people. You're dealing with your partner's kids. You might be dealing with their ex. You're dealing with their family dynamics, and you're feeling alone, even though you're in this house full of people, right? You are, by virtue of the step-family dynamic, feeling like an outsider in your own home. You're feeling like your feelings don't matter and your experience isn't valid. And here's the thing that can be so difficult is you're not even asking for the world here. You are not asking your partner to choose between you and the kids. At least I hope you're not, right? You're literally just asking for acknowledgement and for validation. You're asking for your partner to say, yeah, that was messed up, or I got your back, or I see you. But instead, what you're getting is silence or deflection, or that soul-crushing dismissal that makes you wonder if you're going crazy, right? So I want to talk a little bit more about my client, this woman at the Stepmom Summit, because her story, I think, hits home for so many of you. Throughout the weekend, every time she spoke up in our sessions, it all came back to the same thing. My husband doesn't have my back. She talked about how her stepkids would be disrespectful. And I'm talking about normal kid stuff, but I'm also talking about blatant disrespect, eye rolling, ignoring, snide comments, disobeying rules, like the whole 9 yards. And then when she'd bring it up to her husband, he would brush it off every single time. She would say, like, did you hear what your kid just said to me? And he'd say, oh, he didn't mean it that way. You're overreacting. Or I didn't hear anything. Really? Your kid just spoke to your wife like she's the hired help and you didn't hear anything? Over time, this particular woman went from trying her hardest to communicate with her spouse, trying to fix it, trying to make him understand, to just straight up giving up. And by the time she got to me, she could not even sugarcoat it anymore. She straight up called him an idiot, like every time she talked about him. And here's the thing, behind that, my husband is an idiot, there's so much pain, there's so much exhaustion, and there's so much loneliness. She wasn't really saying he was stupid. She wasn't even saying she didn't love him. What she was saying is, I have tried everything to make him see me, to make him support me, and nothing works. And I'm kind of done. Y'all, that is not just a communication problem. That is a total breakdown in emotional connection. That can end up in a marriage emergency, right? But so let's dig into what's actually happening in these dynamics, because understanding it is the first step to fixing it. And I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that that couple is doomed in any way. But what I'm saying is they're in a really difficult step-family dynamic. And these dynamics are difficult for everyone. And they're falling into roles that are totally natural for the step-parent and the primary parent to fall into, right? So let's dig into this a little bit. Most of the couples who find themselves in these kind of spots, they're not looking for discipline tips. They're not looking for parenting strategies, or maybe they're looking for that, but that's not what they need. They need to rebuild trust in each other. They need to rebuild their communication. They need to learn how to be partners again, or maybe for the first time, right? One of the things that I have learned after years of working with step families is that a lot of times, if your partner's blowing you off, most times they're not being malicious. It might feel like they're choosing to hurt you, but it is not coming from a place where they intend to hurt you. Most of the time, they genuinely don't understand what you're seeing. They genuinely don't understand how you're feeling or why this matters so much to you. So I want you to think about it from your partner's perspective for a second, okay? And this is not a making excuses for anyone. I want to help you understand the dynamic here. Your partner has been dealing with their kids for their whole lives. Your partner knows their patterns, knows their personalities, knows their quirks. What feels like disrespect to you may just feel like Tuesday to them, right? They kind of have become numb to behaviors that make you want to scream. I call it a little bit of like, they look at their kids through the rose-colored lenses of love. And you might see problems there that they just don't recognize, right? Does that mean that they have to be dealt with? Maybe, maybe not. That's a whole nother issue. The other thing, and this is a big one, your partner might be dealing with their own guilt about splitting up with the kid's parent, what their kids have been through, bringing you into their lives. They might feel guilty about the fact that the kids have to go back and forth between houses. So sometimes when conflict comes up, if that's going on, the instinct may be to minimize it, to make it go away, to smooth it over, not because they don't care about you, right? But because addressing it is a whole different level of emotional weight, and it's easier to make it go away and alleviate a little bit of that guilt, right? Meanwhile, you're over here feeling totally unseen. You're exhausted from having to constantly explain why something matters. You're tired of being hurt when the kids ignore you. You're tired of explaining why it's not okay for them to be rude, why you need your partner to step up. And eventually, you stop trying to explain. You stop bringing it up and you start building walls instead of bridges, right? You start checking out emotionally because it hurts a little less than constantly being dismissed. Well, that silence, you backing off, that's not you getting peace. That's resignation, and it's dangerous for your relationship. So I want you to understand that resignation that leads to resentment, that's a warning light on your marriage dashboard, and you cannot ignore it. You may not be yelling at each other. You may not be having dramatic fights. You might be quieter than ever. But that resentment is going to simmer. That feeling of frustration and hurt, that is something that's telling you something needs to shift. And it probably needs to shift now. Step-family marriages fall apart a lot of times not because of big explosions, but this sort of slow, quiet erosion. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, you know? Every time they don't back you up, every time they dismiss your feelings, every time they choose the path of least resistance, that's another cut. And there are lots of other cuts too, right? This is not the only cause of step-family marriage demise, but this is a challenge. But the hard truth of it is, you aren't going to change anything with silence. You cannot build a connection with your partner on top of blame, and you can't save your relationship by checking out. So you may be very, very tired. You may feel like you're speaking a different language. But if you want things to change, this is my tough love portion, okay? If you want things to change, if you want to feel supported, if you want to feel seen and valued in your home, you have to be willing to have the hard conversations. You have to be willing to be vulnerable, because the alternative is slowly dying inside, right? Resentment does not go away on its own. It festers and it turns into contempt, which relationship researchers like the Gottmans will tell you is one of the biggest predictors of divorce. When you start seeing your partner as the enemy, as someone who's too stupid or too selfish to get it, that is when you're in real trouble. But the good news is, if you're listening to this and you're recognizing yourself in this story, you've got time. It's not too late. You've got time to turn things around. And the real way forward here, and this is not going to be a big news flash, right? When I tell you what you actually need to do to move from this resentment to reconnecting with your partner, from feeling alone to feeling supported, it's having these open, vulnerable conversations. You need to have a different kind of conversation, right? Not the angry one where you list all your partner's failures. Not the desperate one where you beg them to see you. You need to be open and vulnerable and share what's really happening for you. Share what you've learned about step-family dynamics. And I mean really share it, not in a preachy way, but in a, hey, I have been learning some stuff that's helping me understand our situation. Because here's the thing. Most people, including a lot of therapists, including a lot of coaches, and probably including your partner, right, don't understand that step families are fundamentally different from first families. They don't get that you can't just blend and expect everyone to feel like family. They think it just takes, a little bit of time. They don't understand this insider-outsider dynamic I talked about, or loyalty binds that exist between the stepmom and mom. Why kids might resist you even when you're being totally reasonable, right? You can share some of the statistics that you've heard from me or found online, that it takes an average of 7 years for a step family to feel like a cohesive unit. Kids in step families feel torn between their parents and they act out. It's totally normal. It's not because they're bad kids or because you're a bad stepmom or because they're a bad parent, right? It is the structure of the step family system. Help your partner understand that when they stay silent, when something happens and the kids are disrespecting you or whatever that is, it's not just about that moment for you. It's kind of what that moment represents in the larger step family system. It's really establishing your role and your place in the family. It's feeling like you matter. It's feeling like your voice counts. You're not just the girlfriend or the wife or some random adult in their space, in the kid's space, right? And then talk to your partner about how some of this stuff is landing for you, not to pull a guilt trip, but just to help them understand your experience, right? And, I know that people have lots of opinions about using the I statements and the I feel, but I think if you can get across where you're coming from, maybe something like, honey, when I see the kids ignoring me, and I know that you're not saying anything to them. I know that you're being silent. It feels like I don't matter here. It feels like I'm alone, even though I know that you're my person and we're partners. So I need you to see me struggling, and I need to know that you've got my back, even if we handle things differently. I want to talk about this. I want you to understand where I'm coming from. Or you can say, hey, look, I know you don't want to be the bad guy with your kids. I totally get it. But when you don't address them disrespecting me, it sends a message to everybody, including to me, that it's okay to treat me that way. And that is just killing my spirit. You're not asking your partner for perfection. You're not demanding that they always take your side or that they become some strict disciplinarian overnight. You're asking them to be your partner. You're asking for them to see you and to validate your experience and to work with you to figure this out. You're not telling them that they're the problem and they have to fix it. You're saying, we're a team. Let's work on this together, right? And look, sometimes you need help with those conversations. Sometimes they are really loaded and really painful and really stuck in old patterns. And that's where therapy and coaching can come in. And specifically with someone who understands step-family dynamics. I know you've heard me say it before if you're a regular listener, but I'm a big fan of therapy and I'm a big fan of coaching. I think they work really well together. I think they are invaluable for step-families, but you have to have someone who understands the step-family dynamic. And when you're interviewing therapists to work with, you need to ask them what their experience with step-families is. And if they don't have a lot of it, you need to ask them if they're willing to learn, right? It is the strategies that you use with step families versus first families are very different, and you have to have somebody that understands. When I see couples that come to me after they've gone to a therapist that doesn't understand step families, they have come in to see me with advice that they have gotten that is so wrong for a step family, right? So wrong. And so you really need somebody that understands that. Find somebody that gets it. I love couples therapy, and I think it's a great thing. And if you are having challenges feeling like your partner isn't backing you up and you are struggling with how to talk to them about it, go see a couples therapist. I think even if it's just a once in a while thing to talk about how you communicate with each other, I think it can be such a powerful thing. Now, you may be thinking, okay, Cameron, that all sounds great. What if I try all this and my partner still will not see it? Well, first of all, I'm sorry if you're in that spot. I know that it is incredibly painful when, you are in a situation and you see clearly that something needs to change and your partner won't do anything about it. If that's where you are, you need to get really clear on your boundaries and get clear on your bottom line. And you need to decide what you can live with and what you can't. And it may be a different kind of conversation, But that, again, I think if you're in that place, seek out some help. You need to get clear about what you need to stay in that relationship and get some help with that. Now, for my aspiring coaches out there, because I hear from you all frequently in my DMs, this topic is really important for you too. This dynamic is probably one of the top issues you'll see in your coaching practice. And you need to understand that by the time someone comes to you with this, they've probably been dealing with it for years. They're exhausted and they're on the brink of giving up. And your job is not to fix their partner for them or take sides, but it's to help them find their voice, help them set some boundaries, and help them make some empowered decisions about their relationship. Your job is to help them see some of these systemic issues, right? It's about the whole family here. It's about the whole family. They need some practical tools for communication that work in step-family context. Generic relationship coaching will not work. All right. If you're sitting there right now feeling like this whole episode was written for you, I want you to know you are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You're not asking for too much. Wanting to feel supported in your own home is not unreasonable. Expecting your partner to have your back is not demanding. Needing to feel like you matter in your family is not selfish, right? But here's the mindset shift I want to leave you with. This is not about getting your partner to be perfect. This is not about getting the kids to respect you. This is about creating a partnership where you both feel seen and heard and supported, even when it's messy, because we all know step-family life is messy. It is moving from you don't get it to help me understand. It is shifting from you never have my back to here's what having my back looks like to me. It is getting to a place where you can speak your truth with love, right? So for my stepmoms out there, if you need support with this, if you need scripts, strategies, a community that gets it, come join me in the Stepfamily Circle membership. We dig deep into these dynamics every single month, and you will not feel alone in your struggle ever again. You can find all of the information on my website online, stepfamilycircle.com, and I will put the link in the show notes. And if you are feeling called to help other stepfamilies navigate these waters, if you have got a lot of experience that you are interested in turning into expertise, check out the Stepfamily Coach Academy. Again, I'll put the link in the show notes, but the world does need more coaches who actually understand these dynamics and can guide families through them with wisdom and compassion. So if that is something that's interesting to you, please reach out to me. You can also reach me on Instagram in my DMs and email me at any point. So before I let you go, if this episode hit home for you, would you do me a solid? Would you share it with another stepmom who might need to hear it? Post it in that Facebook group where everybody's struggling with the same thing. Send it to that friend that's been texting you about her partner not getting it. Because here's the thing. The more we talk about this stuff openly, the more we normalize the struggle, the more we realize that we're not alone and we're not crazy. That's how we start changing the conversation around stepfamilies. And if you love this episode, please leave me a review. Tell me what resonated. Tell me your story. Every review helps another stepmom find this podcast when she's up at 2 a.m. Googling, why doesn't my husband support me with his kids? Right? Thank you for joining me. You are not alone in this. You're not crazy, and you deserve to feel supported. You have got this, and I've got you. So until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. That's it for this week. If you've enjoyed our chat, I hope you'll help spread the word. Share this episode with friends and head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a review. And don't forget, for more great stepmom content, head on over to thiscustomlife.com and follow me on social media. Just search This Custom Life on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Until next time, you keep being you and know that we are in this together. See you here next week.